together little Chase. So Chase is a sculpt by Bonnie Brown. If you've been watching my more recent videos on how to do a rooting map and how to root a Reborn's head, you'll recognize Chase. His hair at the moment is wet because I've removed the rooting map and restyled his hair. The list of what you will need: funnel. It's not essential, but it does make the job easier. Pair of standard scissors. Some smaller scissors can come in handy. Nail clippers, a nail file, stockings. You need these for the head and the body. Then his limbs, the head, the body, and the glass, as well as the stuffing. And I have the full bag down here. So I use the hobby fill, which I get from Spotlight. If you're in Australia, most Spotlight stores have hobby fill, and everything's falling over. So most stores have hobby fill. Lincraft also has it. There's not many of them around in Australia at the moment. Most hobby or sewing stores should have it available. This body already has the cable ties in it, so I don't need to worry about cable ties unless I make a mistake. When I do this baby, I'll be leaving the cable ties a little bit looser than normal because it's going to an adult collector who knows how to look after reborns. So leaving them loose will mean that the legs and arms and head can turn a bit easier. You can use neck rings on the limbs as well as the neck to help it turn. I don't usually like using them. So let's get this started. I'm going to start with one leg. So I'm going to put the funnel in. Now I'm going to fill each limb up to about, for the knee, well, the legs, just above the knee. So it's one straight line across here. So I'll do that. Now I have a mat on the floor. So if I spill any of this, it's all caught. You don't want it to get all over your floor. And if you get it on your work surface, don't brush it off with your hand. It is coarse, tumbled glass, which does mean it can and will cause little cuts and scratches. So not recommended to just scrape it off with your hand. I'm going to put this straight in without the funnel because I only need a tiny bit more. And that's where we're wanting it. So it's about here on this baby. So as I've put it in, I've moved it around in the limb to make sure it all gets right down into the foot. So I'm going to put some stuffing in there. So you don't want to overstuff, but you don't want to understuff. This stuffing will help stop the glass granules from leaking out of the limb. And it stops the top of the limb feeling empty, but it also stops the glass granules from moving around inside the limb as well. You don't want to completely fill a limb with glass granules. It will make them too heavy. They are known as what's called a dead weight. So dead weight feels heavier than if it was a real baby. So you can take a 6 kilo, 3-month-old baby, using that example because I look after a 13-week-old who's almost 6 kilos. And she feels lighter than what a 6 kilo silicone that I have feels. I also have a silicone that's not quite 5 kilos. And the baby, the real baby, she feels lighter than that too. I'm just gonna tip a little bit more in straight from the spout. If you're using a juice jug like this, you can't then use it for juice ever again. I bought this one new and it's never been used for anything but this. And it does make it easier so you don't have to use the funnel. Just make sure you stand the jug upright before moving the limb away to prevent spills. So this again is up to about here. I'm going to stuff it again and then sit the limb down and go to the arms. for the arms, the hole is a bit smaller, so I will use the funnel. These funnels I got from Woolworths, I think. So for the arms, I'm going to fill to just so it's flat with where that crease here, the bend in the elbow is. So at the back of the elbow, it'll be just above. At the front of the arm, here, it'll be in line with this crease. So we're basically filling it 3/4 of the way. So because the funnel is all the way in, the glass isn't going in, so I need to lift it and let the glass go in, moving my limb as it goes, so I can get it all down right into the hand. So we need some more. The funnel in. That is up to where I need it. We'll put stuffing in the top again. It's a little bit too much in that section. I'm going to break that apart. Try again. Perfect. And then we do that with the other arm, filling to the exact same spot. So I'm tipping the arm that the hand is angled down so that the glass will go down here and then straight into the hand. And this one is almost up to where we need it already. Cool, that's right. We put the stuffing in. If you're doing assembling a Reborn that you want to be a specific weight, you can't just weigh out that amount of the glass and then add that to your baby. You need to keep in mind that the vinyl itself does have quite a bit of weight to it. It's not, a lot of people forget about that. So now I'm going to do the head. So I'm cutting the stocking. I'm going to give it a stretch. So this is for the head. Now, the baby's head, so Chase, I want it so you have to support the head. So the weight in his head, will be at the very back. Just going to pour this in. Maybe a little bit more. Yeah, definitely a little bit more. Whoops. This is where having a little set of scales does come in really handy, especially for weighing the head. I think that's going to be a little bit too heavy, so I'm going to take some out. Take my lid off. Now I have spilt some of this, which is fine. That's why I have this down, and I also have something covering the floor. You can use a plastic shower curtain or a plastic tablecloth under your workspace. Yeah, that's better. So I'm going to tie that about that much above it. And then I'm going to pull this and push it through back into itself. I'm going to do that 3 times for this piece. This is to stop the glass coming through the bag as I put it through the neck hole. You can put the stocking straight into the head, so pushing it in the hole here and having it around the outside and pouring the glass straight in. I don't do that, only because I like to be able to make it removable. If I was to do it that way, I would have to double line the stocking and push it into the head separate, in separate lots. So this is going straight into the head, right at the back. Just like that, fits perfectly. That's going to sit at the very back of the head. So I'm going to hold his head carefully. There's a little bit of glass on my table, so I won't lay his head right in front of me. I'm going to try not to mess up his hair. Push this in so it's going on top of that little sack. You want his head to be full of stuffing. You don't want it to distort the shape of his head. So if you overstuff him, I'm really struggling with words today. If you overstuff them, it'll distort the shape of the head. If you understuff, then they just super squishy, and you don't want that either. You don't want them to feel empty or hollow. If you're going to add a magnetic dummy, which I'm not doing on this baby, I don't do it for most because I have a medical device that can't be near magnets. You would add that magnet before you do this. So I would normally add the magnet before I glue the hair. So add the magnet, then put the glue for the hair in and let it all dry at the same time. Using quite a bit of stuffing here. He still feels a little empty. His shape's not getting distorted at all. I'm going to add a little bit more, probably not much more. I think that's about it. So his head still squishes in a little bit, but not too much. Just pat his hair down a little bit. And he now won't just sit upright on my table because the weight is in the back of his head. So I'm going to sit him down near his feet. Now for the body. So I'm going to attach the legs. So we put legs in and then slowly tighten the cable tie. Oh, quickly. So this is the neck hole. So the front of the body, the back of the body. If your body doesn't have this little elasticated bottom, a good rule of thumb for all bodies is this section, so there's a little gap where the cable tie goes in and comes out. That is always at the back of the neck. It's never at the front, always at the back. It's just the easiest way to remember. So I've already done the other leg. Show you how I did it with this leg. So I'm going to put him in the section, in the hole, and carefully pull the cable tie. So I don't want it too tight. I want to make sure that the gathering is even around. So it's still too loose. I'm going to click it a couple more times. And it does make an audible clicking noise. The leg is still very easy to move, but it's now firmly in place. So we're going to cut the cable tie quite short, and then we get the nail clippers to cut that tiny little bit off. Now that cable tie will not just undo. You can tighten it further if you need to still, but it takes away the sharp bit. I'm going to sit him there. I'm going to put a bit of stuffing in his bottom. I'm going to sit him on the edge of the table. Or on your hand is fine, the table, however you want to do it, whatever's most comfortable for you. That down to his little butt cheeks. You do need to be careful not to overstuff your baby. It stops them being as floppy. But you also need to keep in mind that if the baby is going to be held a lot, you will need to put a bit more stuffing in, or even replace some of the stuffing at one point. Stuffing can compact down over time. So you can use the rest of this. You just tie a knot, cut it, tie a knot. That's what we're gonna do. Or you can use a new one. I might actually use a new one, just so I can show you. So I'm gonna use the whole length of it. Cut it right at the top, because we're gonna double line the body as well. Maybe even triple line it, just for extra safety. So I'm gonna put that over there like that to help stop spills. And there we go, it's pouring in. I'm gonna stop there and check the weight. That's good weight so far for the bottom. So there will be more than one waiting sack in this baby. You can do it with one sack, or you can do it with 2 or 3. I usually do it with 2 or 3, depending on quite a few factors. So it depends on the weight you want, the feel you're wanting for the baby as well. That's 2, tied again. You don't want to overstretch the bit that you've just got it in. And 3. And that's waiting sack number 1. Just gonna cut this, just like that. And I'm gonna put that in. Sitting on the edge again, place it through the neck. I'm using the armholes here to help me. Just put that right in the middle. So it's basically sitting down in where his pelvis would be. I'm gonna get some stuffing out and sit it on my table, just to make things a little bit easier. I'm gonna take little bits at a time and put around that bag of stuffing. So remember, you don't want to overstuff your baby. You also don't want to be able to feel your waiting sacks. You sort of go by feel. A little bit in this corner, just like that. And some in the front. I'm going to put a little bit on top, just a little bit. Then we're going to make a smaller waiting sack. So he should sit very nicely there now. So the smaller one, we can either use a new piece or an old piece. I'm going to use an old piece. So this is open at both ends. So we're going to tie a knot, just like you would in a balloon. I'm going to do it twice, over the same spot, just for extra security. So one knot is slightly above the other, that's fine. Cut away the excess, not too close to the knot. And then you want that knot on the inside of your bag. Flip him inside out. Put that over your jug again. I think I have a blockage in my little bit where it comes out of. That happens sometimes. There we go. Give that away a little bit more. That should be good. So before we tie this section, we're going to put the arms on so that we can get a bit of a gauge on how heavy he is. So I know roughly how he's gonna feel at this point. So we put the arms on just like we did the legs. Don't want them too tight, don't want them too loose. We want to be able to move them. So they're moving. Still a little bit too loose, so maybe 3 more clicks. Still moving. A little bit loose still. 2 more. Perfect. I'm gonna trim it. Careful not to cut the body. And yes, I have accidentally cut the body before. Lift his arm up, use the clippers, and that's nice and smooth. The other arm on the other side. Maybe 2 more. Still very easy to move. Not gonna fall out. Trim. And just run your finger over it just to check that it's, not gonna be sharp. There are other ways you can do it. Instead of trimming it, you can cut it so it's only maybe 1 inch long and then tuck it through. Some people prefer to do that, some don't. I do it with some babies, but not others. It's very discretionary. So all of his weight is in. Turn him around. So this bag is not sealed. It's hanging out there so I can feel it. Just so I can feel how he's kind of going. Just give him a bit of a hold. He's fairly light. So I am going to add more to this second sack. And that's why I did it like that. So if you have baby scales, you can lay all of your pieces on the scales. So fill the limbs, the head, and sit them on the scales. Fill your weighting sacks and put them on the scales. And it will give you an approximate weight that your baby's gonna be. You have to remember that the stuffing weighs a tiny little bit, but usually it's nothing really dramatic, unless you're overstuffing your babies. But even then, I mean, this is a kilo bag of stuffing and it will do quite a few dollars. So that's quite a bit heavier, so we'll sit it inside of him again. Nice and gentle, because we don't want to spill it. That is one mess I don't need to clean up today. Oh, I think I've done my quota of cleaning up messes for the day. So pick him up. He won't feel exactly right, purely because he's not fully attached or stuffed, but he's starting to get a good weight. Going to put a little bit more in. You don't want this top bag to be heavier than the bottom bag. So instead of putting more in this one, I'm just going to create a 3rd bag. That. So tie it off, pull it through, tie it off, pull it through, and tie it off. So that little bit of stuffing I put on top of the other weighting sack, we're going to take off. We're going to sit this one directly on top of it. I just pulled the wrong piece of stuffing out. So a lot of this goes by feel. So I'm going to put some stuffing in there around it. All the way around. Need to grab some more out of the bag. Pull it up onto the table. Some at the front. The side. That's feeling really good. I'm gonna grab his head again and stick him in the right spot and then see how he's feeling. I think you could do with being a little bit heavier. So set him aside again, grab some more. And again, this is where having baby scales is amazing. It is so much easier. I did have a set, but they got broken, unfortunately. I will be purchasing another set, and I will do another how to weight your reborn baby tutorial so that you can see exactly how I do it. And it is the easiest way to do it. So before we tie that, we will put it back in. So when I pick him up like this, he is getting a bit heavy. I'm gonna make sure those two weighting sacks are right on top of each other. I'm gonna take one out, move some of this stuffing around. I'm actually gonna take the stuffing out because there's too much stuffing under his bottom sack. I'm gonna take some of that out too. Okay, which one's heaviest? Probably this one still. The heaviest one in the bottom. So sit it on there. And put this one on top. And then we're going to put the stuffing around it again. You may have to put stuffing in and weighting in, take it out a few times to get the perfect feel, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you're making mistakes. Every baby, feels a bit different. It just depends on how heavy you're wanting the babies to be. So I'm wanting him to have quite a bit of a heft to him, but not too much, if that makes sense. I'm gonna sit this untied sack in very, very carefully without stretching the bag because it's not tied and it's just a one layer. I'm gonna hold that so that it doesn't spill and then pick him up and put him in my arms again. He is feeling much better. I'm happy with that weight now. It'll be very interesting to see how much he actually weighs. Oh. So we can tie this. Just move this stuffing out of the way so you can see. That. Now this isn't long enough to do 3 wrappings, so I'll show you what to do there. I'm going to take a scrap section like this, tie a knot, turn it inside out, so the knot's on the inside, put that sack in there, tie a knot, it's just a little one, let's cut it. Now this big knot at the bottom here, you want to be on top of another bag. You don't want to be able to feel that. You shouldn't be able to anyway, purely because of having the stuffing around it. Like that. At the front, so you need a little bit of stuffing around every single angle, all around. A little bit more the front, around the side. As you go, just run your hands up and down the baby. Make sure everything feels good. There's no excess lumps, no little cavities anywhere. You don't want him overstuffed. So he's looking overstuffed, but he's not. He's still going to be nice and floppy. So I'm not going to put much more stuffing in. Probably looks like I'm putting a lot in, but I'm not putting much more in. Like that. little bit on top here. Just for where the shoulders are. Maybe a little bit more. So he's still flexible. Just going to put his head on. So we've got his head on, we're going to tighten the cable tie a bit. Not too tight, we want to be able to move it, but we don't want his head to fall off. So that's about right. So you can see how his head goes back, his whole body does. So he arches back like a banana. That means he's not overstuffed, he's not understuffed, he's really good. His head needs support, his limbs are all very free moving, but they're not too loose. And his head goes side to side. So we're gonna lay him on his tummy, trim that cable tie without trimming more of his hair. We did that in one of the last videos. It's like, oh, that. The clippers. That's a little bit too long, so we'll just clip it. And then clip it again. No sharp bits. Make sure there's no fluff dangling out of anywhere. And that is little Mr. Chase, who now needs his hair brushed again. There he is. Super cute and assembled. Hope this video has been helpful. I will do a photo shoot of him. You can find his photo shoot photos on my Facebook page, which is Baby B, as in the insect, B-E-E, Reborn Nursery. Thank you for watching.